Oh, the thing no one tells you about a small idea that turns into a very massive idea and project is that there's no roadmap. There's nobody telling you exactly what steps to take or exactly what to do. You just have to continue trusting your best decision and continue making those decisions as things come up, as challenges happen. There's really no one that can prepare you for the leap into a small idea that turns into a big idea. It's just trusting what you have and what you can offer.
Welcome in, teen audiers. Thank you so much for being with us for this episode of Things No One Tells You. And this one is one that I know you're going to learn a lot from. And I feel like I might say that every time, but the wisdom in the 25-year-old that you guys are about to hear from, I swear is worth it. It's worth going back and listening again because I could not believe some of the things that she was sharing. And here's the backstory. Olivia Santelli is, among many things, a Pilates instructor. So before I begin, I'm going to start with a little levity. What is a pirate's favorite Pilates pose? Planks. That's actually for my dad who loves pirates. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so here's the story. Part of my morning routine, and my kids out actually just because I force them, is to make sure that the television in our kitchen is on to the Today Show before 7 o'clock so we can see the open and they can see their dad come on the show. And one show, this is probably a few weeks ago, I was watching it at around 8 o'clock. I'm getting stuff ready for the day, finishing lunches, all that jazz. And they start talking about the story that's coming on about this woman named Olivia. I found myself captivated by this story that I started listening to in the background, and then I stopped and just paid full attention to this because it talked about this woman named Olivia who was she worked with production with the Chicago Cubs. She was really young, but she also loved to teach Pilates, and she had basically said on social media that she was going to show up on the banks of Lake Michigan in Chicago and that she was going to lead this Pilates class. And before she knew it, something that started with 12 friends turned into like hundreds. And the story was so well done. And what I loved so much about it is I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great because she had this one seed of a thought that moved her and she tried it and look what happened. And I texted Sarah, who is our brand manager at Things No One Tells You. And I was like, Sarah, please find her and please find out if she will join us so that I can talk to her for Things No One Tells You, because I really wanted to hear what she would say the thing is, what she learned, but also just hear more about her story, because I thought there's so much belief in what she accomplished in that moment. And it also is sort of like never stop dreaming, right? Things that I just love learning about in people's stories, whether they're athletes, entertainers, or just, average everyday folks. So I really wanted to know how her life changed from that, what she learned and what she could share with us, with our community, just to give us some insight. And so I am so excited for you to hear this conversation with Olivia Santelli. She joined me from where she lives, her parents' home. And here I give you Olivia. I am just so looking forward to this conversation, and I'm so grateful that Sarah tracked you down, Olivia, and thank you for the time, because I know that your time has only gotten smaller after all that you've sort of launched. So I have a
Thank
lot of
you.
questions, but first, real quick, where are you joining us from?
Right now in Chicago, hometown, love it here. Always come back to it.
Okay. And I want to mention to our listeners and viewers, so you graduated from Michigan State in 2022. How has your life changed since the Today Show did that story about Rise Pilates and what you created?
So dramatically. I
Really?
this summer in general was the dramatic change, and I think the Today Show kind of capped off that change of really solidifying what was built here in Chicago and what that change has turned into now in my life. And I think the Today Show gave us some credibility, gave me and myself, the opportunity to reach out to more brands, more places, just more in life because we have proven ourselves in that way. So.
So can you explain in your own words what Rise is?
Mhm. Yeah, Rise Pilates Club is an accessible social wellness club here in Chicago. Well, currently only in Chicago, hoping to expand, but we're in Chicago. And basically, what that means in layman terms is we do a free beach Pilates class at sunrise on Oak Street Beach in Chicago in the summertime. So we have a 10-week series. And with that free Pilates class, we also have vendors, so protein shakes, coffees, beauty, wellness products, really brands that we feel align with our mission in terms of helping people feel good. We also go through a sound bath, and there's time to socialize and meet new people on the beach at sunrise. So it's really a social and wellness community, and we get thousands of people joining us every week now, which has really become a staple, I think, of Rise Pilates Club.
By the way, I love a sound bath. I wait. So, okay, I want to get to that and your idea and how it sparked this dramatic shift for you. But I really was interested too in first starting at after graduation. You now work in production with the Chicago Cubs, and I love talking to women that are in the industry, that whether it be content, whether it's journalism or broadcasting, what have you, but especially if it's sports, I obviously have a special connection there. And so take me through when you were in school, how this started, what you were looking at and what you were interested in getting into.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was at Michigan State studying broadcast journalism, focus on sports reporting, and my time was coming to a close. And during my time in school, I worked for Big Ten Network, the Student U program, just to get my feet wet. I was running cameras and doing a little bit of sideline reporting and calling color for the hockey games.
And by
Um,
the way, real quick, is that hard to do while you're a student and while you're focusing on that work? Is it hard to get those jobs at this day in age?
yes and no. I think you have to know the resources that your school provides and fully take advantage of them and make sure that you're getting your feet wet when you can. Because if I didn't go to the Big Ten Network office and say, hey, how do I become a part of this program? I don't think I would have ever found out um, that I could have been a part of it. And it really changed the trajectory of my career after school because it's what allowed me to get my job with the Chicago Cubs. So that being said, knowing what programs your school offers, huge, taking advantage of them. And I think in college, I probably worked like 3 or 4 jobs all at the same time while being a
Mhm.
student just to try to like see what's working, dip my toes in, a little bit of everything. And all of that experience, I think, is almost more valuable than the piece of paper that I was handed when I walked across the stage.
Uh, it's really interesting because obviously many years different, but yeah, that was similar to my situation. It was like I was working at a local station while I was in Harrisonburg, Virginia, James Madison, and I was also working at this hot dog place where trying to make some money. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting that those things obviously don't change. Did you know the type of job that you really were gravitating towards that you wanted to have in sports, or was that sort of like you were still exploring, but you knew that that was the area you wanted to go to?
My dream was always to be a sideline reporter for hockey. Yep. Was born and
Amazing.
raised in a hockey family. I played hockey all throughout high school. And so it was really like deep in the family blood. And that's what I wanted to do. And then post grad came, and there's a lot of options.
Yeah.
And a lot of the on camera options come with starting being paid $15 an hour and moving halfway across the country and starting to like build your way up to the place that you actually want to be in. And so when I graduated and started applying and started getting interviews, it was really that decision between, okay, do I want to start on camera and make very little money and have to pay rent all on my own in this brand new city where I know no one? Or I applied for the Chicago Cubs, obviously a more local hometown team. I could move in with my family. I could explore behind the scenes a little bit with a part-time seasonal job with their video production department, which was the route that I ended up taking.
You know what's fascinating is when I transitioned to sports, my first job was covering the Miami Dolphins, and I was a news reporter in Jacksonville, Florida. And I got this offer that came out of nowhere. I did not expect it. I did not seek it. And I actually met at a race in Victory Lane waiting to interview a driver for my news station. And these guys from Miami were like, come down, work with us here in Miami. Would love for you to apply. The job is that you're covering the Dolphins. We have a show called Fins TV. It's behind the scenes, but it was technically part-time. And
Hmm.
so I remember that in some ways that felt like a big risk for me because I'm like, I really wanted to do that. It sounded really exciting and also terrifying, but it was sort of a leap, you know.
Hmm.
But what I think is so cool about that is like you're learning the behind the scenes and you are really understanding what it takes to operate a team. And you know, it's like a different lens. And I think this day
Hmm.
and age for those types of jobs, sideline, even hosting, reporting, what have you, that those are really still amazing jobs, amazing access.
They absolutely are. And I think having that access to a part-time job to begin with opened up to more opportunities. Within my first 2 weeks, they asked me if I wanted more hours and then more
Wow.
hours. And so there was definitely opportunity to continue growing in that position. And my job from where I started to where I am now is vastly different. I started working in the control room at a clickety clack laptop during the live production, making sure that videos played at the right time and doing some edits and running the marquee board, the iconic marquee board outside of Wrigley with messages and stuff. And now my job is very much so fan facing. So a big shift in the opportunities that you have even in a part-time role.
And fan facing because your job right now with the Cubs, how do you describe it?
Yeah, so it's called features coordinator, but basically I go out and any shot that's on the video board during live production that has a fan and a corporate sponsor, so any like video board game or like fun feature has to do with me helping coordinate that shot with the cameraman. So I'll find the fan from their seat, explain the game to them, make sure they feel comfortable and confident, and then we'll make sure that that shot goes live with them.
Wow. So, for folks that did not see the feature that was on the Today Show that caught my attention, basically the story that they did, and it was beautifully shot. They did a great job, and it was great.
Mhm.
They interviewed you, your family.
Mhm.
It was basically your idea to show up on the banks of Lake Michigan and offer this free Pilates class, and
Yeah.
how that turned into this groundswell of support and became this incredible community. So I was watching that and I'm like, oh, I really want to talk to her so badly because I want to know what is the thing no one tells you when you've been through that experience. So how would you
Mhm.
answer that?
Oh, the thing no one tells you about a small idea that turns into a very massive idea and project is that there's no roadmap. There's nobody telling you exactly what steps to take or exactly what to do. You just have to continue trusting your best decision and continue making those decisions as things come up, as challenges happen, as these roadblocks turn your attention to different directions. And there's really no one that can prepare you for the leap into a small idea that turns into a big idea because there's no guidance really. It's just trusting what you have and what you can offer.
So, where did that idea come from?
I was living downtown in the Gold Coast area by myself for the first time ever. And I had gone through my teacher training for Pilates instructor, being a Pilates instructor. And at that point, I was looking for a little bit more. I was looking for my own community. I was living alone. So, like, just wanted to branch out a little. And I would spend my lunch breaks going to Oak Street Beach. It was only a 2 block walk away from my apartment. And I wondered one day, I was like, oh, I wonder if other people would enjoy this too, getting a little time outside. I love being connected to nature. It's my happy place. Getting to move their bodies, connect to their breath, all tools that have helped me in the entirety of my life as I've struggled with anxiety and depression and, the stresses of life in general. And so I put it out on my social media and said, hey, I'm going to teach some free beach Pilates classes, thinking just my friends and family or, some people who were a part of my community that maybe I didn't get to see so often would show up and we can reconnect. Um, and little did I know the entire city would slowly begin to show up. So
So, that first day that you show up there, you would put it on Instagram. What social media did you
yeah,
use?
I just used my Instagram. And at the time, my following wasn't major. I had maybe like 6 or 7 thousand followers, just mostly like friends, family, local community, things of that sort. Just put it on Instagram with a graphic, little slidey carousel with the details and the dates. Showed up on the first one, May 24th of 2024.
Wow. And
Hmm.
then, and so what happened?
So showed up, 12 friends were there, just like I expected. It was lovely. I was nervous as ever, putting myself into this new position. I wasn't working for a studio. I wasn't working for anybody. This was my chance to just make myself the instructor and the host that I wanted to be. And
And were
so, of
you a
course,
trained instructor at that point at all?
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes. Had been trained for about 2 years at that point, or a year of training and then a year in studio. And so was a trained instructor, but this was a whole new realm, like jumping into something on my own. And so just started teaching my 12 friends. And that's all I ever expected it to be all summer, was me getting better at teaching, me finding this piece of community in the city.
And then,
And then, and then about 3 weeks later, walked onto the beach. And this was the first time that my parents had ever joined us at Rise Pilates Club. But I had my routine at this point. It was week 5. I was like, or week 4. And I, knew I was waking up at 5:30 to walk over to the beach and be there by 5:45, this and that. And it's 5:45 and I'm walking to the beach with my little cart, my speaker, and my umbrella that I set up. And my mom calls me and she goes, "Where are you?" I go, "What do you mean? I'm doing the routine that I always do. I'm walking to the beach." And she goes, "There's 100 people already waiting for you here." And I'm like,
what?
"What do you mean?" And so I start jogging with my little cart trying to get there. And I have a small speaker. Like, I was
Oh,
prepping for 50 people because the week before we had had 50 people. It went from 12 to 50 to 500. And so I showed up and I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Absolutely nobody's going to be able to hear me with this small little speaker that
oh
I
my
have.
gosh.
And it was just the craziest, most wild experience of my life. I was running around in circles trying to show everybody the moves because I was not prepared at all for the dramatic jump from 50 to 500, and then continuing from 500 to 1,000, continuing
Are
from
you
1,000 to
serious? So it,
1,500.
it legit
Hmm.
was 50 to 500?
Yes.
Olivia, oh my God. So
Yeah.
so you used the speaker as best you could, but you were just, did people enjoy that?
I, if I'm being honest, probably not. But they came back, right? But they came back, or they told their friends about it and their friends came. And we really tried to elevate the experience every single week. It was at that point now my dad was fully invested. He saw what was happening, he saw the growth, and he said, "We're going to do anything that we can to make sure everybody can hear you." And so we reached out to local contacts and friends, and used connections to get more speaker systems and things of that sort. And so just kept trying to grow and like build the plane as it was literally flying, to make the experience as best we possibly could.
Do you know what's so crazy about that is I have a friend who just used that phrase with me this is first time I heard it literally 2 weeks ago. They're building the plane as they're flying it. Um, and I think that's a really special thing. And it's not lost on me that obviously like you have the tools and your approach. This was obviously supposed to happen. I think that's incredible. So at the end of that session of that class where you had 500 for the first time, what did you do? Like when everyone was dispersing, take me
Cried.
in. You did.
Yeah, I sure did. I cried and I called my mom after they had left, and I thanked them for like allowing me to be a human that was allowed to dream, who was allowed to like pick up and make mistakes and try again and do new things and feel comfortable and confident to like put herself in a position where she could be standing in front of 500 people and nobody could hear her and she can still keep going. But I think while the people were dispersing and while I was still on the beach, I was so in shock. I was so in like this moment of adrenaline of like, is this happening? Did that just happen? That I don't even know what my next step was. I think I was just trying to like sit in the joy of this working, of this many people wanting to come together. And yeah, and then the next question was, how are we going to make it better for next week?
I think, yeah, there's something really unique about the fact that it's not what you expected to happen,
Mhm.
and it was so dramatic. That reminds me of a conversation that we had on this podcast with Elliot Buttleman, who created the brand Phase It. They're the glitter freckles and the acne patches that have different
Yeah.
shapes. And she shared about how she knew when Taylor Swift showed up at a game wearing them that was a moment that it was sort of like your moment of the 500 people showing
Yeah.
up. And she explained what that was like right after. And she said she realized that she had to meet the gravity of the moment with like putting the work in to make sure that it wasn't fleeting while this was her opportunity. And
Hmm.
I was like, it's so much pressure, but it's so just commendable when you're able to make it work and really do that the right way. So how did you guys do that?
Yeah, I think there were two options for how I could have approached the situation. I could have crumbled and I could have said, "Oh my God, that was the best day of my life. Let's just like let it
Yeah.
happen. Let me soak in it." Or, like you said, I could have met it head on and been like, "That was the best day of my life. How can I make it better?" And so jumped full force into the work, reached out to friends and family immediately who had speaker systems, got to testing them, seeing if that would work for us. My dad and I started kind of teaming up on this whole project, and he and I would go out extra early on the beach, and dig trenches, and we would chain link speakers down the beach to make sure that as many people as possible could hear us.
Wow.
Yes, and so we really met it head on with the work, and at that point the city had also reached out to us. The city of Chicago had found my number and said, "Hey, if you don't get a permit, we're going to shut you down," which was a roadblock. Yep, which was a roadblock I never
That's the thing
never
no one
thought would
tells you.
happen. No, that is the thing that nobody tells you. And I had assumed that when we had gotten to a certain point, we would need a permit, but that was never something that me and my 12 friends would have to worry about. And so I had to work with the city of Chicago and the park district to secure permitting. And for a free event, you can imagine there's no funding to cover permitting. So kind of figuring out all of those roadblocks as well, and then continuing to grow and then have it again for a second year this year.
So what are the things that you've observed or experienced now that you've had it going, that you didn't expect, but things
Mm.
that you yourself think are unique and interesting?
I think in terms of Rise Pilates Club as a brand and as an experience, what it the intention always was to make it a safe place where people could move their bodies, connect to breath, and find community. And those intentions have always stayed very true, even as we've grown to our largest being 4,000 people this year. And so keeping true to all of those intentions has been the biggest pivotal part for us, because after classes, after every class, I announced to everyone, I'm like, I would love to meet heart to heart with you, give you a hug, hear your story, you know, connect, just, meet face to face. And the most shocking thing to me has been the line of people who line up to meet me after. Never in my life would I think that there would be a line for people to meet me. And I stand there for about an hour to an hour and a half, and I get to hug these people who are a part of the community, and I get to hear their stories about how this morning, or the morning that they were there, was exactly what they needed because of what they're going through. They'll tell me what they're going through. They'll tell me how this community has helped them. They'll tell me that they relate to my story of going through, anxiety and depression, and using these tools to connect back to self, and how it's really been pivotal for them. And so that was something that I never expected, was the true change and true impact that this community could have on that many people.
So how would you describe it as the thing no one tells you is what?
The thing no one tells you is you will be forced to be vulnerable in ways that you have never been vulnerable before, and your capacity will be pushed to limits that you probably have never pushed it to before also. Like my capacity to be able to hold other people's emotions, other people's stories, while also knowing that, my emotions are separate from theirs, but I can be somebody who just fosters them and cares for them and nourishes them in that moment.
So the impact then for the people that you're reaching is what? What have you seen?
It's been a lot of needing community. It's been a
Mhm.
lot of needing to come back to themselves. It's been a lot of them going through something really challenging and not knowing where to start taking care of themselves again. It's been a lot of, people who don't have access to taking care of themselves cheaply, right? Like the only thing that they maybe have access to in the city or in their neighborhood is something that maybe isn't close to them or isn't affordable for them. And so we have a lot of people who have come and said, I've never been able to go to a Pilates class before. I've never been able to connect to my body and breath like that before because it's not accessible to me in my area. And I got to experience it today and it has changed my life already, or people who are struggling with physical illnesses, mental illnesses, who don't know what to do. Given a diagnosis and you feel lost and you feel scared and you don't know who's out there with you. And when you have the chance to go and be a part of something that makes you feel as if there's community, as if you're part of something bigger, as if there's hope, that really ignites a lot more than I think we realize.
Wow. Why, like, I don't know if you're a spiritual person, but why do you think that this sort of has happened to you? Because is that surprising? Is it that you have this type of opportunity to help people in such a like direct way?
I think it's always been something that I've strived for, even when I was young, and going. I'm not. I mean, I'm only 25.
Yeah, just to be
The
clear.
joke, the jokes of me saying that is probably a little twisted, but but uh, but that being said, like when I was going through high school and elementary school and already struggling with symptoms of anxiety and falling in and out of these depressive episodes, I think my hope had always been to find a way to heal it that wasn't necessarily through like your traditional route of healing it or going on medication to like numb the feeling. It was always to come back to the root cause of it and try to really understand with myself why it was happening. And my goal had always been, once I had felt better, to help others feel that way as well, because I know it's possible, because I've experienced the shift and the change. And I think that that was originally why I went to get my instructor's certification for Pilates, was because it was a practice that I knew I could help others with. And it connects you to your mind, it connects you to your body, and it connects you to your breath, all separate tools that I used to help me heal.
What was your story with anxiety?
Yeah, it's a long one and a deep one. It started when I was 13, 14, and it started as panic attacks, really massive panic attacks. Um, I would like go in and out of these phases of like cutting everybody out of my life, not answering my friends for weeks, sitting in my room, my parents being like, "What do you feel?" and me being like, "I don't know," and like screaming and crying. And then it slowly shifted into a social anxiety. So as I shifted out of high school and into college, it became me not being able to walk in a room without thinking everybody hated me. Me, disassociating myself from friends or from friend groups and feeling really isolated and lonely, which then, curated into a toxic relationship, got myself into that, which, just
Hmm.
pours more on top of, the things that we're already feeling. And so from that all adding up, COVID hit. And that was my time to slow down, to reanalyze everything that I had experienced, been through. And this journey was really up and down. I always like to say that healing is non-linear. So in high school, my mom started teaching me some tools to help feel better with those panic attacks. And for a while, that helps and I feel better. And then you get into new environments that trigger you again, and then you jump back down, right? So that this was all over time and going up and down in this cycle of healthy mental well-being, basically. And once COVID hit, that was my time to like truly make the choice of, do you want it for yourself or do you not? Do you want to keep feeling the way that you have always felt or do you not? And I didn't want to. And so I dove really deep into all of these tools, into taking that time to be with myself. And everything really changed after that.
What did you learn about the reason through that work that you think you self-isolated from
Mm.
friends back when you were first feeling that type of anxiety and depression?
I think it was one, not thinking that anybody would understand what I was going through or why I was going through it. Because on the outside, I have a very privileged, beautiful life.
Mhm.
I have a family who loves me. I have a safe house that I get to live in. I have, food that nourishes me. And from the outside, you're looking in, you're like, what, what is she sad about? Realistically. And so I think I would isolate because I would go into these vats of depression saying, nobody understands you, nobody gets you, this is all happening to you.
Sort of like, you're not worthy of these feelings. Come on.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And so I would push everybody away because I'd be like, I don't want to have to talk about it. And I think that that's, as it continued to go on and on and on, that continued to become that feeling of isolation. And why I would continue to pull myself away from others was because I didn't know how to express myself comfortably, confidently, in the way that I always wanted to see myself expressed. And so instead of trying to express myself with fear of being judged for the way that I expressed myself, I just wouldn't. I would just hide.
Safer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's so, isn't it ironic that like you went from that to you and hundreds of almost thousands of your best friends like doing what you're doing. It is very
Yes. Hmm.
I love how you talk about like building the community, the mental health journey. I also the purpose-driven business model that you've talked about. Like I am really interested, we've touched on it a little bit, but in just how people who are closer to your age coming out of school getting into the business, like how they are doing it and what types of things they are looking for, what are the opportunities. And you touched on it with, like at your school, making sure that the resources are that you're tapping into that, et cetera. But also I just think you are a self-owned business, right? Like, and
Hmm.
I'm talking to a lot more people that are very young that are doing that. And like, what don't people know about that? What do you think
Mm.
through your experience? What have you learned?
Yeah. I think it's a lot easier to start a business than you think. And thankfully, I have had the support of two business owners in my family to help me, kind
Yeah.
of guide me on that way. But what nobody tells you is that it's really simple to start. And then it gets hard. But but it's really simple to start. Like you can go online and you can apply for an LLC and you can open a business bank account and you can start all of the legal processes of a business very simply. What nobody tells you about getting all of that after the fact is that you need to trust and own your business with your whole heart because there is nobody else responsible for making it work except for you. And so you have to have the confidence, the knowledge, the trust in yourself to know that you can make it work or else it won't.
How much of that has been also you really leaning into the audience that has come together around Rise? Because I found myself watching much longer than I thought I was your 3 a.m. morning routine, getting ready. And I was like, that is such a great idea that you're bringing them along. Watch me get ready. But how is that? How have you worked with that to help build?
Yeah, I think social media has been everything. That is exactly why we've built. That is the only reason that we have grown the way that we have grown, plus some word of mouth, but social media
Mhm.
has been everything otherwise. And I think when people feel as if they're a part of something, not even just like coming to the beach and being a part of the community, but when they feel as if they're a part of my life, it makes them feel a little bit more connected to the truth, the story, the mission behind it all. Like, I don't ever want to stand up on this picnic bench or the stage or whatever it is that I'm teaching from and feel isolated or disconnected from the community because this is always meant to be you and me together and not me speaking to you. And so I've always wanted to make sure that people feel as if they are part of the journey in general. And so using social media to show my morning routines at 3 a.m. and the reality of like what it looks like for me to wake up at 3 a.m. and find my way to the beach, or starting to bring my dad into content now. Everybody loves him.
Really?
Yes, starting to bring my dad into like some little pieces of content now. I think it really makes people understand that I'm a human too. And I
Mhm.
am just trying to do my very best in every situation and with every decision that I have that I need to make, to offer the best to the community. And so I think it provides a little bit more of a human to human connection when we can be vulnerable on social media.
I also loved how you pointed out that you were trying, what did you say? You said the thing that you're working on is not running from one thing to the next. I
Hmm.
was like, you're speaking my language. It's funny
Yes.
actually. My husband and I talk about this all the time because he's very good at like managing the thing, the goal, what he's working towards, and it's sort of this well-oiled machine. And I think he is an expert around just relationships and navigating relationships in a big workplace. I think it's those skills come into play as well when you're, have your own business also. But I think
Hmm.
maybe being more of the entrepreneurial person is, it's more common that people are like, oh, you're going from this to that, and you're just more of a, I don't want to say an ideas person because I'm not insinuating that like he's not, but you tend to be a little more maybe creative.
Yeah.
So I loved the post that you had about taking the time to stop and watch and see like a sunrise, whatever it is.
Hmm.
What else have you been working on, and how much does that play into your life in terms of you really trying to recognize what might hold you back sometimes?
Yeah, it's a constant journey of self-recognition and growing from who you are and being able to try to hold more or do more, but in a more intentional way. And so I think right now that is the biggest one, because this entire summer it felt like a chicken race, running around and running around from task to feature, and just, doing the best that I could to manage the next thing that I had to do. But I know that the love for this community, the idea for this community came from a time when I was moving slower, a time where I had access to think about what I needed, what I had around me, what my heart was pulling on, the little strings, that are attached to these dreams that we have. And I'm reminding myself more and more that I'm not going to know what to do next unless I slow down, unless I listen again to all of those things that brought this idea to me in the first place. And so slowing down is one really big one. Finding time for rest, finding time to actually go back to all of those tools in my own practice, because they have changed my life and continue to
Mhm.
over and over and over again when I come back to them. And I think also another thing that I'm working on is, we've talked about capacity a little bit before, but capacity in a new realm now, in knowing that these things are all possible because I have shown myself that they are possible, because I have continued to show up for myself even when things get hard. And so now when big ideas or big dreams come to me, they don't seem scary. I just have to find the capacity to make sure that I can make it happen, right? So that I can make sure that I can answer all the emails that I need to answer, that I can reach out to all of the people that I need to reach out to, that I can manage tasks and manage employees, and that I can still be a good friend and girlfriend and sister, on top of all of that. And so I think when we ask ourselves to take on more, we have to know that we can, to an extent, while also holding on to all of the other values that we have, so that we stay true to the person that we are. And I think that that's something that I'm really deeply working on right now, is finding a way to hold more and be more, so that these big dreams actually come to fruition.
I was going to ask you about like what would be maybe the best piece of advice right now that you really have about how to find and carve that time to be still. But I think what you just touched on, how have you found most effective? I know you're working on it, but to do that, because they're kind of the same thing. It's like being still, but also finding that capacity to be present in the moment.
Hmm. Yeah, I think It's come a little bit from being able to like double up my tasks. Like,
Okay.
family time also comes with rest time, right? So when I am with my family, my phone is away. My phone is on do not disturb. I'm not multitasking while I'm with my family. And so that's a way that my brain gets to rest while I get to be with my family, right? That's the way that I get to do both. Whereas in another sense of things, when I'm not resting, when I am in a work state, I allow myself to be fully dove into that work, right? So say, my partner, my boyfriend is around and I'm working and he's trying to talk with me, making sure that I communicate very clearly, hey, I'm really want to get this done right now. Can I have another 30 minutes before we jump into, a conversation or
Yeah.
something different? Because when I am in work mode, I need to be fully present and with my work, instead of kind of being flighty and all over the place. And that leads me to be unproductive. And I know that about myself. And so I think a lot of it comes from knowing yourself too, knowing what helps you move most efficiently, but also how much rest you truly need to be able to have that efficient work time.
And I don't care what anyone says. I have recently discovered about myself sleep really matters. And I know people have said it for years. And it's one of those things that for so long, when I, have whether I've been working or you're just doing like you're less busy, but you're doing different types of projects, I used to think that I could really get by on like 6 hours or like 5 hours, no problem. I'll get it later. And I have just found that my body shuts down. It's like, girl, shut up. And if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it for you. And that's what happens. And so
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. And I also think making sure that you actually have a comfortable place to sleep, that your bed is like inviting and that you're looking forward to that. I know you weren't talking about sleep, but I just
No,
felt
but
like
yeah, but that is a big part
it's
of it as
very
well.
true. Yeah,
Hmm.
I love what you just said about doubling up the tasks and taking the time to just be fully present in the moment, especially in the moment, especially when you're with family. And um, one of my friends had talked about non-negotiables and how, and that reminds me of that, how the non-negotiable in your situation is this time will not be interrupted by something that is my phone, and you control that. And there's the way that you do that. I think that's really awesome and valuable advice. And I cannot believe that you're 25 and that you are so wise. Um, all right, because I don't want to keep you forever, but I could talk forever. Do you still have the same type of goals like when it comes to the sports side of things and whether it be the hockey sideline, or has that shifted?
I think that goal will always like there's a part of me that will forever hold on to everything that I've ever dreamed of, right?
Love
Like
it.
I will still always hold on to these dreams and goals that I had as a child, and I slowly see myself fulfilling them as I get older. And so I think that there will always be that goal to be a host in some capacity in my heart and on my mind. But I think what has been really fun about this whole journey of changing from one career to the next or working multiple jobs is that I get to continue doing all of them in some capacity while others take larger form, right? So while Rise Pilates Club has most of my attention right now, that doesn't mean that I can't one day come back to being Olivia and being a host and being a reporter,
Mhm.
like I had once dreamed of. And so I think right now the focus and the goal is to grow within my online platform for mental and physical wellness tools, and to grow Rise Pilates Club to a more national scale is really my focus and my goal. My personal goals will always be underlying, and when I have the opportunity to pick them up again and try them and do them, I sure will.
Amazing. And the platform is called Within,
Yes, yes.
correct? And is
Hmm.
it something that people can access now, or is it still in the building stage?
Yeah, it's actually something everybody can access now. You can find it on my social media at Olivia Santelli or at W__ITHIN. But it's, yeah, just an online platform, and it's a subscription base where you can get access to Pilates classes with me, sound baths, meditations, journaling, micro self care, all of these tools that I've consistently talked about, but in one place.
What did the Cubs say about what happened with Rise?
That's actually so funny that you bring it up, because every time I would walk into work, I would walk in being like, hi everyone, just like kind of thinking that nobody knew anything that was like that, everybody was kind of oblivious to what was happening in my outside life.
Yeah.
And for a while it was that way. And it was really beautiful that I got the opportunity to just like walk in and nobody said a thing to me about it, even if they knew about it. Like that was just that. And after a while, obviously, as we got news features and we're on the Today Show, there was kind of no avoiding what was happening in my personal life. And it became this really beautiful moment of now actually getting to collaborate a little bit with some Cubs affiliates. And we have a Rise Pilates Club event with the Chicago Red Stars, or not Red Stars,
Wow.
with the Chicago Stars. They've rebranded their name. Um, and so it's really interesting now to be able to integrate those two pieces of my life, and kind of bring them into one. And I think the Cubs also now see like where my forte is and where maybe my pitfalls might be in terms of what is best for me to do in that position.
This is an incredible story. Before we wrap, I love to ask people, okay, what are three things that no one knows about you?
Mm, so good. Okay, three things that nobody knows about me. I feel like I try to be as public as possible. However, I do love my private time. And so I think the first thing that nobody knows about me is that I love to not be on the internet, even though I'm public facing. I love to disconnect. I love to get my hands and my feet dirty and go to our family's cottage and catch frogs and kiss turtles and
I love it.
and yes, be with nature. Another thing nobody knows about me is that my brothers have really shaped my life. Yeah, so I
Mm.
have two older brothers, and growing up, I always wanted to be just like them. Like that's why I played hockey. I think that's a large part about why I went into sports. And so they have had a lot of impact on my life. I think more than they probably have realized because I've never really told them either. Um,
Aw.
and I think the third is, I mean, people might know this, but maybe not like vulnerably and vocally, that I'm still trying. I'm still learning. I'm still making mistakes, and I am enjoying making mistakes. Even though I might like cry myself to sleep sometimes over the mistakes that I've made, right? I am still just understanding that this is a part of the process. And the process is never going to be easy, and the joy of being human is that we get to experience it all, the highs and the lows and the in-betweens. And so I'm trying to lean in as best possible to being human and enjoying this human experience that we have offered to us.
Wow. Olivia, I can't wait till you write your book. You have to tell me about that. No, this has been so awesome. I think that's just it's all beautiful and all just such a special, an awesome story. And I love that you shared so much because I think people on so many different levels can really learn from what you had to say. So thank you so much for joining me. And
Thank
I
you.
really hope to be in the crowd at one of your Pilates classes
I hope
when
that
they
as
come back
well.
up. Yes.
Yes. The hope
Um,
is to make it to New York and a
yes.
bunch of other places across the country. So,
I love it. All right. You're the
yes.
best. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, Lindsay.
Is there a place that you want people to go? I know you mentioned within, but where they can
Yeah.
find you if people are looking for more.
Yeah, absolutely. There's three probably places that you guys could look. So you can find me personally on social at Olivia period Santelli on all platforms, or you can find Rise Pilates Club if you're interested in joining us for any in-person events at Rise Pilates Club, all connected, all lowercase. Or again, you can find us on Within if you don't have access to come to our in-person community events to still have access to all of these tools online. All can be found in my personal social media bio.
I love it. All right. Keep
Mhm.
on doing what you're doing and thank you.
Thank you.
I was so glad to hear that Rise Pilates Club is continuing. By the way, Olivia mentioned it, but if you want to connect with Olivia or pay attention to more of what she has going on, please go to our show notes because we will have all the links in there. Also, she said that they are continuing throughout the winter, as well as also the fall coming up to have these events, and they will continue with the summer series next summer. So I can't wait to see what she comes up with next. I also really valued Olivia sharing her perspective and her experience so far in her young career, about what it's been like, having the thought that you want to go into the sports media industry, because I just think us sharing those thoughts as well as the different ways that we've had success pushing that ball forward is really helpful in community. So thank you so much for joining this episode of Things No One Tells You. I can't wait to hear your feedback. I would love to hear the topics that you want to hear more of. I'm Lindsay. Much more next time. Thanks so much for joining me. I can't wait to see you back here next week. Please don't forget, follow and subscribe to Things No One Tells You. And of course, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave a 5-star review, because that's really what helps people get more listeners. We would love to grow this community. We are so grateful that you're a part of it. See you next time.